Tucked away deep inside of the hills of San Fernando Valley, there's a home that looks like nothing you've probably seen before. It looks like something from the sci-fi movie or novel. However, it is a real home and it is for sale. And we're gonna take a look at it today. But not only we're gonna get inside this home, we're also gonna talk about this unique kind of architecture called geodesic dome. This architectural style is one of the rarest you can find in Los Angeles. It does have a lot of history behind it, and a history of use in residential real estate and in industrial, in military, and other kinds of real estate. So there's lots of interesting things to talk about. So let's get into this and see this fun and interesting home that started to get built in 1994, and you guessed it, it hasn't been finished yet. So we are at 21280 Mayan Drive here in Twin Lakes. And this house just popped up on the market about a couple of weeks ago. It is listed for sale for $395. It started to get built in 1994 and never got finished. So what's the deal here? What is geodesic dome to begin with? This style of architecture was created, imagined, and popularized by Buckminster Fuller. This style of architecture is pretty often used in other applications. I think one of the first applications was used in Ford factory, and you could quite often see this type of structures being used in places like Antarctica, other applications that are not related to residential real estate. But this guy imagined that these types of homes would be homes of a future. And at some point in time, we could be all living in homes like that because they're very resistant against elements, and these types of homes are actually relatively easy to build. However, it didn't really get that popular in a mass culture. We can see residential homes being built in a very regular, in a very traditional way most of the time. But this is something unique and definitely something worth looking at. Overall, geodesic dome is a structure that's been created out of interconnected triangles and put together, kind of like Lego. To this day, you can find enthusiasts where they would teach you how to build this kind of domes for whatever application you might have. A greenhouse, a living space, some commercial applications, whatever you have in mind. The history of this home is pretty unique as well because current owner purchased it in 1985 as land, and he started building this property in 1994. Now, when I record this video is 2025, so 30 years later, the property has never been finished. So right now you would have to do all of this work pretty much from scratch according to the new rules and regulations. It's not going to be an easy process, but it definitely will be a creative one. So when I started looking around, not only where this type of architecture could be found in Lake County, but also in this community, it turned out that there's another two homes that are not necessarily geodesic domes, but structures somewhat similar to that. One of those homes with the geodesic dome type of roof has been there since 1981, and the current owner has owned this property for the last 40 years or so. And the other property, the one that's located on Orcas Drive, that one was actually a small circular home with incredible view, but it was pretty small, and in the last couple of years it got flipped. So garage square footage was added. A couple of years ago, the property was sold for 500 grand. After the additional square footage was added, it sold for 850, and luckily it does have plenty of parking space on a driveway, so that's not a problem. With that said, geodesic dome architecture might be rare, but it's not new to Los Angeles, and Our city has incredible examples of this type of architecture. The Cinerama Dome in Hollywood, built in 1963, that's the world's first all-concrete geodesic dome, a cultural landmark and still one of the most recognizable theaters in the city. Triponent House in Hollywood Hills, designed by well-known architect Bernard Judge in 1962. A futuristic, Miller-covered dome residence, part sci-fi, part spaceship. Domestead, Glossal Park, a communal artist retreat in the hills. A multi-level dome with deep ties to LA's creative movement. Dome Village, downtown. And now defunct, but most iconic social experiment, providing geodesic shelter for LA's unhoused residents in the 90s. Well, that one is actually one of my favorite examples of this architecture and of its use here in Los Angeles, because in 1993, somebody came up with an idea of putting 18 of those dome-like structures on an empty lot next to the freeway to house homeless people. And at any given point in time, there were up to 35 people living in there. There were individual domes for people and families. They were communal domes for kitchen purpose. There was even a communal dome for the library. An interesting thing was that even in 1993, there was a possibility for homeless residents that were renting spaces over there to access internet. That social experiment was actually quite successful for about 13 years. People were paying somewhere between $70 to $100 per month to rent one of those spaces. It seems like the experiment was going well up until 2006, where the economy was changing and a lot of things around downtown were changing. So the rent that was being paid for that empty lot went up from $2,500 a month. And that was the beginning of an end, where the experiment was effectively closed and those dome-like structures were sold off eBay, going for roughly $3,000, and people were purchasing them to put them in the back of their house. Being inside this home, you can clearly see what the idea is. There's a lot of triangle-like structures of different sizes that are interconnected, creating this space. I think originally it was supposed to be 1,600 square feet. I'm not sure if that considered having like a second story over here or sort of a mezzanine type of level, but it is definitely one of the most unique and weird properties. I don't believe at this point in time there is running water or electricity or sewer or septic tank here on a property. Something to be confirmed, but I don't believe none of the services were actually brought to the house. However, they're definitely right there on the street because there's homes right next to this one. So why would you be even interested in building a dome-like structure? There's few reasons, and those are really good reasons. Strength. Triangles are nature's strongest shape. Domes are earthquake resistant. Efficiency. The spherical shape regulates air and light better than conventional homes. Affordability. Often cheaper to construct, though not always easy to permit. Uniqueness. Let's be honest, this isn't your average cookie cutter box. And of course, if you're interested in this home or some other interested in unique homes in Los Angeles and the greater Los Angeles area in general, give me a buzz and I would be happy to take a look at those homes with you and discover their uniqueness and their backgrounds together. Thank you so much for coming on another architectural adventure with me. I appreciate your support, you guys, so please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and drop a comment down below and let me know what would you like to hear about in regards of other unique properties here in our beautiful Los Angeles. So yeah, so if you're bored of your conventional type of flips, this might be a project just for you. The view over here though is absolutely gorgeous, overlooking Deer Lake Ranch development that is still being finished but already looks pretty good.